I hope you like bonus content from a unique perspective on your Indianapolis Colts because we've got it for you today on Locked On Colts. Thank you all for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. This is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This is Jake Arthur bringing you some bonus content for your Saturday morning. Hopefully your weekend is off to a nice start there. I wanted to share with you guys a chat I had with Alexa Ross. She's a sports reporter from CBS and Fox here locally in Indy. She's actually from the Philadelphia area and is a huge Philly sports fan. So she can give us a great look at both sides of this Colts and Eagles matchup ahead of Sunday's game there at Lucas Oil Stadium. We'll also get you caught up to date on all the latest Colts news, injuries, things like that. They released the practice report on Friday. And then I'll give you my final thoughts on the game. So just a little housekeeping, of course, the injury report. Interim head coach Jeff Saturday announced that Kwity Paye and Jelani Woods would both be out for this game. Kwity Paye, of course, has already missed a few games and then most of last game with that ankle injury that's been bothering him. That's rough because he's been the Colts' best defensive end throughout the season, and he's really coming on strong. He played really well against the Patriots a couple weeks ago. With him gone, it looks like it'll probably be a lot of Dio Adengbo, though, so that's definitely good. That's a guy that needs those developmental snaps. Jelani Woods, this will be his second game out. He actually practiced on Wednesday, but then didn't practice Thursday and Friday. That's tough because, again, that's another guy that needs those developmental snaps. You'd love to see him out there because he's a huge mismatch problem. But he will still be out. So, of course, Mo Alley-Cox, Kylan Granson. What's really interesting is there's three guys that are questionable, and they're all pretty important. Zaire Franklin, their starting Mike right now. Braden Smith, the starting right tackle, and Isaiah Rodgers Sr., one of the starting outside corners. Rodgers and Franklin have an illness that's kind of worked its way through the defense this week. Kenny Moore missed a day or two with it, but he was back on Friday. So it's tough to say. Saturday just basically said, it's that time of year. We just kind of got a bug going through the building right now. So that definitely bears monitoring because if Franklin can't go, then I think Bobby Okereke would probably step into his spot at Mike, and then EJ Speed would be at Will, and then probably JoJo Doman at Sam if I had to guess. He's next up on the depth chart, and I'd probably rather see him than Grant Stewart there. Braden Smith, I think we all fingers crossed that he's out there, but if he does miss the game, Dennis Kelly would be the ideal replacement. Kelly has, throughout his career, excelled as a backup right tackle. He's the guy who comes in and does a great job, and then you say, hey, it'd be great if he was the starter, essentially. So the right side has always been kind of his home position. And then Isaiah Rodgers Sr., he took over for Brandon Faison, several weeks ago. So obviously if Rodgers can't go, it'll be Faison. It'll be tough against this receiving core of the Eagles with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith if Rodgers can't go, because as you've heard us mention throughout the season, especially lately, Rodgers is been shutting guys down. He's only been targeted like 10 times this year. He's really putting up kind of eye-popping statistics, or a lack thereof, if you want to put it that way, in terms of how little quarterbacks are targeting him. So he's been really important lately. As for the Eagles, cornerback Josh Jobe will be out. He was out last week as well with a hamstring. Their interesting injuries are bigger ones, really. Dallas Goedert, shoulder injury, and nickel corner Avonte Maddox. They both went on IR this week, so that's to the Colts' benefit. Goddard's one of the best tight ends in the league right now, top 5, I would think most people would say. Avonte Maddox is really important to their defense, considering Josiah Scott, their backup, really struggled last week against the Commanders. So that's an area I've kind of got circled that Paris Campbell could probably take advantage of in this matchup. The Eagles brought in a couple of big-time veteran defensive tackles this week in Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh. How much they play, that's going to be up in the air because they, just a couple days to get ready for this game. Probably on a snap count if I had to guess, but they're veterans. They've been in playbooks forever, so we'll see how that goes. Before we go on and talk about my interview with Alexa Ross, though, let's talk about our friends at Tommy John. Today's episode is brought to you by Tommy John. If you hate getting stuck in the Black Friday crowds, of course you do. It's super uncomfortable. However, shopping Tommy John's Black Friday sale from your couch, that's super duper comfortable. Give the gift of brand new Tommy John underwear, loungewear, and pajamas. With over 18 million pairs sold, they've become a holiday tradition. 97% of women and men love getting a gift from Tommy John. That's why Tommy John doesn't have customers, they have fanatics. Shop Tommy John's Black Friday sale going on right now and get 30% off site-wide at TommyJohn.com/lockedon. 30% off everything now at TommyJohn.com/lockedon. TommyJohn.com/lockedon. See site for details. Without further ado, here is my chat with Alexa Ross. Colts fans, we are pleased to welcome sports reporter and anchor for CBS4Indy and FOX59's Alexa Ross to the show. What's up, girl? How you doing today?
I am living my life. It is a little chilly out, but you know what? We play football in a dome, and I'm happy about it.
Thank God, thank God. I don't know what the weather is supposed to be like Sunday, but if it's like today, I'm pretty okay with
I
that.
think it's supposed to be like today. I do think it's supposed to be like today.
Yikes, yikes. Okay. Alexa, of course, represents the Eagles side of things. She's a Philly sports fan. If you guys follow her on Twitter before it dies, I guess, then you know her tweeting during Philly sports games. That's a lot like Zach's unhinged Colts tweets. So she's very entertaining to follow if you don't
Listen,
already
I
follow
could be
her.
a lot more unhinged on Twitter, but I really try to keep it professional.
Yeah, we all, I know exactly what you mean. So for those of you who aren't familiar, where do your Philly sports fans' roots come from? Why are you such a big fan?
Yes, so I grew up in the suburbs of Philadelphia. I grew up like 35 minutes northwest of the city. I went to Temple University, which is also in Philadelphia. My dad's been an Eagles season ticket holder since 1985, handpicked his seats in the vet, like the whole thing. So I grew up basically going to the link when the link opened in 2003. Just, and I think when you're born there, it's kind of like ingrained in you, even if you're not a sports person, like you are a fan of these teams. So I just got really lucky to be born into a super passionate fan base and have really enjoyed my time covering, other teams, but like my like love of sports and like my passion for professional sports all can be traced back to that city. So, thanks, Philly.
Yeah, and of course you were just back there, back home for the World Series. Did not quite go how you wanted, but you got to experience it. That was fun, I guess.
I got to watch history for a no-hitter against my team.
Oh, that's not how you want it. And of course, you couldn't escape the Carson Wentz stuff either because he went from Philly to here. So as did you around the same time.
Yeah, well, I came from upstate New York. My last job was in upstate New York. I covered the Bills for 2 years. But when the Carson news came out, I was like, "Oh, I'm going to be another Philadelphia area acquisition to uh to be here." And then Matt Ryan joined us too, who's from Exton, Pennsylvania, which is not too far from where I grew up. So there you go, just the whole gang going. But no, the Carson Wentz saga, I'm glad it's over and that I don't have to pretend to hide my feelings about it. And what else was I going to say? Oh, and then when the Pacers getting Ben Simmons news was like being floated, like those trade rumors, I was like, I'm moving. Like if this happens,
Right.
I'm out.
Don't want it.
I
No.
can't stay here if this happens.
Basketball's Carson Wentz, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So during one of those live tweet sessions, I was watching on Monday. You made a very good point. You know, the Eagles coming off their first loss. Colts fans should have wanted to root for the Eagles because they were riding high 8-0. Now they're 8-1. Seems unlikely that they go on a weird tailspin and lose two in a row. How do you expect Nick Sirianni's group to respond after that first loss?
Well, Nick Sirianni obviously wants to come back and make a good impression in front of, a place where he used to be a part of the staff and like a place where he really learned how to be a coach and be a part of the main workings of a franchise. So of course he wants to do well here. He wants to do well here and also like he's going to be pissed off. Like, he's going to be really, really angry. You don't want to be the team that faces the previously undefeated team after their first loss. Like, nobody wants to be that because you're going to get the worst of them. And Sirianni, I mean, I think this game had a little bit of an edge for him anyway, just to be, this was probably one that was circled from, schedule release saying, oh yeah, we got to do this. We have to have, we got to make a statement here, and we got to do it big. And, coming off of a lot, like not just a loss, like your first loss, but a primetime loss to the Commanders. Like, how bad it feels to lose to the Commanders. You also lost to the Commanders.
Sure
So,
did, yeah. I've covered the Colts for a while. I know what rough losses are.
Yeah, but also, like, this season, too. Like, Colts lost the Commanders, too. Like, to the Terry McLaurin, which, like, we love Cathedral Zone. We love an Indy native doing good things at home. Fine, whatever. But, like, what that feels like to have a team that people have kind of just laughed at through this offseason, between its, like, organizational failings as well as, like, its football issues and stuff. You don't want to be that guy. So I think that they're going to come out angry. I think they're going to come out hungry. And I think that, they've made the signings that they need to make. I think they realized that their run defense was, like, really looking bad after Jordan Davis went out with injury, which, as an Eagles fan, like, I feel terrible. I hate seeing a rookie hurt. I hate seeing anyone hurt anyway. I hate even more seeing rookies get hurt. And then when it's on your team, it's just like, this, like, gut punch, like, stabbed to the heart. So, like, obviously wishing the best for him. But the Eagles have been doing the things that they need to do to make those defensive line signings, things like that, make sure that they can, build it back and be ready against Jonathan Taylor, who is finally looking like Jonathan Taylor again because of the Parks Frazier play calling.
Yeah, and you bring up what actually was going to kind of be my next point. The Eagles' run defense has been pretty shaky, and yes, they're going to be angry after their loss, but they have these injuries that you can't avoid that. Dallas Goedert just went on IR. Avonte Maddox, which could be an area. Paris Campbell continues his role. But yeah, they added Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh this week to make up for Jordan Davis and some other issues. That's pretty interesting. Given those specific injuries, how do you see some of that stuff kind of adapting, I guess?
The guys they signed this week, the linemen, they were signed on Thursday. So I don't know if they practiced yesterday. Like, I don't know if they got even in. I mean, I'm sure they were at the facility. I'm sure they were at NovaCare. I'm sure they were working with coaches and stuff, but you might not have been working with your teammates. You might not have been lining up, and you might not have been in drills. So that's a today thing. That's a walkthrough before you leave thing. But, that could be the, game time Sunday could be the first time that those pieces are actually, like, finally coming together. So I think that if the Colts kind of can exploit that, or, like, maybe some missed assignments, and, like, take advantage of, like, the gifts that they might be presented in that way, I think that that's going to be really beneficial for the Colts run game, because, like, it's been a really long time since the Eagles have had a bad run defense. Like, that's been, like, the one thing that they have prided themselves on for as long as I've been alive, is, like, having a really solid run defense. So I'm definitely interested to kind of see where that goes. And I'm also interested to see what they do with their pass catchers if Devontae Smith takes that step up, because Dallas Goedert has been such a big piece of their offense. Like, think of Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert has kind of done the work of both Kylan Granson and Jelani Woods. Like, the way he's been utilized in those short little goal line situations, as well as middle of the field short routes. So, I'm interested to see kind of who's assigned that, if they decide to go long a little bit more, if they're checking down with Miles Sanders, Boston Scott. I'm just interested to kind of see where, because Dallas Goedert is such an integral piece of that offense. So I think the Colts defense, who obviously has been, like, they're not what they looked like last year, but they have been the strength of this team for the most part. They need to be ready to just take advantage of, like, maybe not really, a team that's kind of trying to figure some things out and work things out as they happen, because the Eagles might see themselves in situations that they might not have seen at all this season without Dallas Goedert. That's going to be a much bigger hit than a lot of people realize.
Yeah, and both teams are kind of going through, I don't know if it's an identity thing or what have you, but the Colts, obviously, this is week 2 with Jeff Saturday and Parks Frazier. There's a lot to learn there, and
yeah,
how are they going to look moving forward? Eagles having to shuffle some things around because of injuries. You've obviously seen both teams play. Which areas on, for the Eagles and the Colts do you think they could take advantage against each other?
Yeah, so like I was saying, I think that the Colts need to take advantage of the run defense situation and just kind of like any little like weird mismatches. I also think that the Colts need to take advantage of the speed of the Eagles secondary. Like Darius Slay is a top 5 corner regardless. Like he will, but the thing is he could match up with any one of these guys. It wouldn't surprise me to see him on Paris Campbell because Paris Campbell is the fastest receiver that we have. Like Alec Pierce is a lot slower, Michael Pittman's a lot bigger. Like I'm very interested to see how the secondary and the wideouts match up. Like I think that it can go a lot of different ways, but I also think that if Parks Frazier is smart in his play calling, will kind of like switch them around between XYZ, like just kind of the way which they have been doing, not necessarily under Parks, but just kind of like moving the guys around, slotting them in different spots and seeing what happens to maybe just play with the speeds with the corners. Cause like Bradbury, he's a good corner. He's fine, but like he's not, or like he's great in the secondary, but he's not super fast. Like he's not the fastest guy on the field. Kind of like how Stephon Gilmore is now not the fastest guy on the field anymore, but he'll probably be up with AJ Brown. Because it's a guy he's seen before and he's an experienced receiver as opposed to just being like lightning fast down a sideline, toe drag, into the end zone kind of thing. So I think they're really going to have to kind of take advantage of like little defensive things. And I also think that I think that the Colts offense, because we haven't seen everything that it can do under Parks Frazier, I think that if they keep like not necessarily playing with things, but doing the situational football that they've been practicing and just kind of like building upon what they did last week in like a very aggressive, balanced, and diverse play style, I think that that's going to really serve them well.
And now the moment of truth. You don't feel pressure to go either way, but do you have a score prediction for this one?
I don't have a score prediction for this one. I just think that it's going to be like, I think that it's either going to be really close or it's going to be like a 20-point. Like it'll be like a 7-point game or a 20-point game. And like, there's no in between. Like, I don't think
it's a game where the Eagles take out their frustrations. Then essentially,
yeah, it's going to be an Eagles take out their frustrations and win like 40 to 21 or something like that. Or it's going to be like, we're going to see a Matt Ryan virtuoso, like another fourth quarter, what he was hired to do kind of thing. So, and like quarterback down to the last minute, like the last seconds and make something happen. Because if the Colts don't struggle to start off slowly, like if they just like get out there and play, they won't have to play catch up and they can just keep up with it. Because the Eagles will score points. Like that's not, they have their quarterback is too good by himself and with his weapons. Like he's great weapons, but like Jalen Hurts is mobile and he can run. But we've seen that the Colts defense can like hold a mobile quarterback. Like they can do it. They just have to do it. That's just what has to happen. And obviously easier said than done, but it's one of those things where they can't be complacent and they just have to get out there and play.
Yeah, this probably would have been a pretty big Shaquille Leonard game, honestly. So
Yes.
Bobby Okereke and Zaire Franklin will have to be on it when it comes to Hurts because that's just such a problem in itself. Is when your quarterback is the team's best runner, like that's just so hard to defend. But I think that's all I got for you today. I really appreciate you coming on and dropping some knowledge on everybody.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. We'll see you Sunday. Thanks again to Alexa for joining us. Make sure to follow her on Twitter if you're not already. That's at Alexa Ross TV, at AlexaRossTV. Now, before we move on and I bring you my final thoughts on this matchup, I want to tell you guys about one of our favorite sponsors. You've heard us talk about them for months and months, BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends from every professional and amateur league out there. From football and basketball to soccer and esports, they've got it all at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts like this one, you can find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, so if you heard our crossover episode on Thursday with Locked On Eagles, I gave my final score prediction of 24-20 Eagles. basically, it's just hard for me to picture the Eagles losing two in a row. Number one, they're a really good team. The Colts, they got a jolt of lightning last week. I think Frank Reich being fired and Jeff Saturday coming in was a real kind of dose of reality. I do think they'll be better moving forward this season. I don't think we're going to see them lifeless as often. Hopefully not at all the rest of the season. I think they'll be competitive in most games, but that doesn't mean that they're going to win all these tough matchups. Like, they're going to lose some games against good teams, and I think that's what will happen here. Again, on the surface, it looks like an easy Eagles win for most people on the outside, and it should be considered as such, but I'll tell you why I think the Colts could win this game. First off, at their best, the offensive line is getting push up front. Jonathan Taylor, it looks like Jonathan Taylor. We've only seen it twice this year, once in week one, but the most recent example was last week. Now, the Raiders' defensive line is butt. Like, they're bad. The offensive line rightfully took advantage of that matchup. Philly's defense is going to be much better, especially guys like Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh. If they're out there, they're not going to get pushed around in the run game. But we can only go off of what we've seen from Philly's defense, and that is kind of a bad run defense. They're ranked 20th overall in the league, despite being a really good defense overall. The last 3 weeks alone, they've averaged over 150 yards surrendered on the ground, so that definitely kind of points advantage Colts if their offensive line can get some push. I think we know they've got the right five out there finally. You know, we don't know what Braden Smith's availability is. He's one of their better run blockers, of course. So we'll see how that goes. But I like the Colts' chances of at least getting something going on the ground in this one. And if not, like, Matt Ryan will be fine. Like, they're a good run pass rushing team. So I do think Matt Ryan's going to have a tougher time getting rid of the ball than he did last week. So that's definitely something to watch out for. But I do think if the Colts can get some movement up front in the run game, it definitely bodes well for their chances of actually winning. So with Taylor keeping the Eagles defense on their toes, I think Paris Campbell versus Josiah Scott is a really important matchup to watch. Because Darius Slay and James Bradbury should be able to have some nice moments against Michael Pittman Jr. and Alec Pierce. But Paris Campbell's been rolling lately. In these last 4 games, I think it's like 30 touches, 290 yards, and a few touchdowns. Like, he's starting to look like Ohio State Paris Campbell lately. And this is another great matchup in his favor. I really like it for him. So, in the end, again, I'll give it 24-20 Eagles, but I'm not going to be surprised if the Colts win. I mean, we've seen a much worse version of them beat a team like the Chiefs earlier this year. So I won't be shocked. I don't think it happens, but we can all hope, right? So that's it for us on this bonus episode. We'll be back with you guys after the game on Sunday, so stick with us. Follow at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks 2 on Twitter. Also subscribe to our show on YouTube, of course. We're getting really close to 2,000 subscribers. You guys have been awesome there. And, of course, wherever you listen to podcasts. We'd also love your ratings and reviews, especially on Apple. That is how we move up the charts. And as you guys know, in the world and on the internet, it's not always the nice people that are the ones that leave reviews. So if you like our show, if you're digging it, we would love to hear from you. Please leave a nice review. And with that, we will see you guys on game day.